Hello again. I had to leave there. For me, when I'm doing these live videos, I need privacy. I need to have privacy when I'm doing them, or it just doesn't. I'm not able to tap in like I like to do, unless I'm in a seminar setting. So anyway, we were talking about kriyas. Now, when the kriyas hit the emotional body, this can be very disturbing for a person if it's a difficult kriya, say an outburst of anger, or a situation where a lot of grief is being experienced. It can be difficult, and because the Kundalini, as it comes into your system, will amplify many of those emotions, and this is why the ancients would basically try not to get attached to any specific emotion or any specific scenario, unless, of course, it had, a strong level of importance to that society or that individual. So, yeah, the kriyas are always, always, always important, and they will come in spikes. They will come in a wave. So if it comes in a spike, that'll be like an extreme body positioning or emotional expression. Bliss, receiving bliss, can be a kriya. As the Kundalini comes into the body and it comes into the spine and it begins to expand itself throughout the entire body, bliss can be experienced, as well as ecstasy, and those are also kriyas. These are also kriyas, and you need to know that, because most of the kriyas are not painful. Maybe some are, and certainly some of the emotional ones are. But for the most part, body positioning into a yoga position, or shaking, or in some other form of expressive movement that the Kundalini's putting you through, it's not a painful thing. Now, the ego may process it as painful. The ego may go, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this all by myself, therefore it's wrong. And that's just another manifestation of the ego pushing fear into this. And you just don't want to do that. You want to understand. The more information you have about Kundalini, the better your experience with Kundalini will be. And one of the things that I really want you to understand is that kriyas are good. They are an amazing, good, positive manifestation of grace upon the physical system, upon the psychological system, on the emotional system. Okay, it can be scary for the egotistic body. Okay, it can be scary for that. The spiritual body, because it's aligning the other bodies with spirit, is in total harmony with the kriyas that a person will have. So there you have it. Quick and dirty. Kriyas are good. And the other question was, does it mean something is wrong with my life that I should change? Well, it can be. If you're not a very forgiving person, and all of a sudden you're being placed within proximity or experience with a situation where you would need to be more forgiving, that can also be a kriya. That can be a situational kriya, where your grace is putting you into a situation where you must do what it wants you to do. And it's not so much like you're a marionette or a puppet on a string, and yet to some degree you are. When a child is learning how to walk and mom and dad are holding the arms of the child so that they don't fall, is that child a puppet? No. That person is a younger person that is learning how to use the body in a new way. And it's the same thing with this. Sacred Mother, Sacred Father will put a person into a position where they need to be more forgiving. Very much similar to what we would do with our 2 or 3 or 4-year-old child. Okay, you got to forgive little sister. She didn't mean to hit you. That type of a thing. So there are some changes that you could make with regards to a kriya. One of the main changes that you want to look at is just going with it and not trying to resist the kriya. If you find yourself being put in positions where you need to do more forgiving, then forgive. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to be more tolerant, then be more tolerant. Tolerance is a strength. It is a strength of character. Okay? So yeah, there are definitely life changes that a person can make in response to the kriya phenomena that Kundalini brings. And the next question was regarding astral projections in relation to Kundalini. Well, okay. Astral projecting is often a precursor to Kundalini awakening. And if our society supported it, we would all be coming into Kundalini with a much greater facility, a much stronger, smoother, less fearful experience of it. But because our society is science-based and science can't hold or prove or measure an out-of-body experience or astral projection, let alone even believe in it, therefore, a whole school of Kundalini preparation is being ignored by our society. Other societies not so much, but our society here in the West, yeah, we're basically blinded by our egotistic enthusiasm for science. Okay. Anyway, so that being said, the astral projection experience can open a person up to very specific understandings of life and consciousness that are different from the behind the veil consciousness that we are growing, living, and operating from within. Okay? So that means that in your day-to-day waking life, the astral teachings about Kundalini can be very, very helpful. One of the ways it's helpful in a very basic way is that it opens up a person to the direct realization that death is not the final word. Death is not the final word here. And how do I turn that off? There we go. Death is not the final word. Death is just changing the clothes. This, it's all clothing. Flesh clothing, but it's just clothing. And after a lifetime of use, the clothing sometimes needs to be changed. Washed every 3 months, whether you need it or not. So there you have it. So astral projection is a very good thing. You can go wrong with it, though. You can cave in to your egotistical wants and desires for competition and power and control over others instead of yourself. That type of a thing. And you can pay harshly for those types of antagonistic towards others competitions. You can pay for that. But for the most part, you can go out of body and not be afraid to do it, even as you have Kundalini. If the Kundalini wants you to be infected with another kind of entity consciousness, then it will allow that to occur. Nothing is wrong. It's just you're learning what it's like to have an experience where another consciousness, another real consciousness, is exposing itself to you, operating through you, that type of a thing. And you need to always see these entity interactions as part of the Kundalini awareness. Okay, whereas before you were blind, now you are not blind. And Whereas before you were blinded, and so you only had a certain level of understanding of what was around you. Well, when Kundalini opens all your eyes, you have a level of experience of what is truthfully around you all the time, without being blinded by the blinders that we agree to have placed upon us when we come into the behind the veil world. Okay, so the sleeping world. So when you have the astral projection or the out-of-body experience, you can see that there's a lot more going on than you were ever taught, that science could ever explain. Okay, it's a big, big, big multiverse, and it is only by the grace of God that we occupy this small, tiny little area that doesn't believe in anything but what we can touch, see, feel, hear, smell, taste, whatever. And this is on purpose. This gives us an opportunity to evolve eventually into the divine flesh. Okay, the divine flesh, which is what causes the kriyas, which is what caused our conversation at the first question here. So, astral projections are really good. You can induce them. But just as you do in the waking life, you need to be polite and considerate. You don't go around invading people's space. You don't try to look through the shower window to see them taking a shower. You can fly, you can go through walls, but you are also within control of your Kundalini. It will control you. Okay. And if it sees you making a mistake that it doesn't want you to make, you'll just have your mind changed. Like a diaper. Like a diaper that's not being thrown into the landfill. All right, so astral projections are good. Go into the astral projection with fearless. It's not going to harm you. It's a natural thing. Everybody goes into the astral when they go to sleep. The majority, 95% of the people don't remember it. They don't remember the separation sequence. They don't remember anything. But it is a natural facility, so you can experience it. Let's go on to the next question from David, and it says, would having a vasectomy help or hurt the Kundalini process? Wondering, since you won't be losing any sperm anymore. Anything that science does that interrupts the natural process, certainly within the reproductive systems, is not a good thing. Okay, we need to keep the body as intact as we can, even if it is bothersome or in some way, you have to do more work. In this case, maybe learn how to have sex without seminal expression. I do not support vasectomies with regards to Kundalini activation or awakening. I think it is a mistake, and you don't graduate from the class by leaving the class. Okay, you don't graduate from the class of self-control by walking out of the class, closing the door behind you, and then blowing up the door. Or cutting the cords of the door. However you want to say it, it is not a helpful thing for the Kundalini process. It's far more than just a fluidic process. Far more. And you need to maybe expand your thinking, David, around all of the aspects of what it is you're talking about and what it is you're asking about. I mean, what? It's just like, oh yeah, I don't want to wear a contraceptive. I mean, is that what it is? It's like, oh man, I can't keep it hard when I'm wearing the contraceptive. Whatever it is. It's sorry to be so blunt. I don't want my wife to get pregnant. Okay, well, there are other things you can do. You don't need to cut on the penis or the testicles or the vas deferens, which is what gets cut. So my advice would be don't do it. There it is. Okay. Going on to question number 3. And Amar asks, he says, if everything is being done by Kundalini, what portion are we really in control of? And why? Why bother with the safeties, rules? Why not just go with the flow and let things happen without consciously doing or thinking anything negative or positive? Well, Amar, if you can go through life not thinking anything negative or positive, more power to you. We are given tests by the Kundalini. Okay, so in the idea of being tested by grace, that means that we're being tested to leave the expectations and limitations that we have within the 5 sense limited mindset that the majority of the populations work from. Okay. And I never did say everything is being done by Kundalini. Who said that? Okay, so everything is being done by Divinity, but that includes giving people the options to do the right thing, to respond in a way that is supportive of a divine unfoldment within themselves. And the Kundalini is there to help you do that. But just like in the previous example of Sacred Mother and Sacred Father holding the child up by their arms so the child doesn't fall and injure themselves, it's the same thing here. Okay, we are being pressed into looking for the word here. Becoming a divine human means that we're going to be in 2 or maybe more than one reality. Okay, in one reality, we're a divine being, and we are being taught what it is to live the grace of a divine being in a flesh body, which is a material being, which is, yes, composed of divinely aspected combinations, but it's still a house for the ego and for people learning how to become divine at a time in their life when it is appropriate. Okay. Divinity will help us make the right choice. And the fact that it's helping us do this is in a very strong way holding us up by our arms, but not excluding, the footwork that we have to develop, those leg muscles, the foot muscles, the calf muscles that we have to use in order to walk this world as semi-divinity, the flesh made divine. And so we will be helped. We'll be helped whether we want to be helped or not, because some of us will have an ego that says, well, I don't need any help. I don't want any help. Don't help me at all. So some of us will have that response. And Adrian, I just read what Adrian Merrick said about Amanita muscaria. We don't need to take drugs, whether they're natural drugs or herbs or plants or mushrooms or whatever it may be. Not saying they're bad, but if you stand naked in front of the mirror in your basement, surrounded by cement, you have everything that you need to become semi-divine. Everything that you need is already there within you. It's already there. You don't need to go out into the forest and eat a mushroom, Amanita or not, and you want to stay away from the Amanitas. I know the Amanita muscaria is the only Amanita that people can eat, and I understand that, but by and large, you want to stay away from Amanita mushrooms. I'm really not supportive of taking anything or doing anything to force an awakening on a person. And that includes opening the heart. People have no idea what it means to have the heart opened up. And let me tell you, it can be a shattering experience. That was just an aside. So, Mar, if you say everything is being done by Kundalini, I say everything is being done by divinity and mortal consciousness. It's an agreement. There was a distinct possibility that you were going to live this life within a divine context. And so now here it is. You just need to learn how to open your eyes. And if you can let things happen consciously without doing anything negative or positive or thinking anything negative or positive, well, then I encourage you to do that. That's a good thing. Moving on to number 4, and this is from Christine. And Christine says, well, what next? After the Kundalini is activated and taken control, and you can't go back to seeing anything like you once did, what next? Surrender. Just continue to surrender, Christine. And what needs to unfold will unfold for you. And of course, I'll say practice the safety protocols. Feed your grace. Nourish your grace. Don't just think that, okay, I've done this and I've done that. What's next now? What do we do? Where's the teacher? The teacher's behind you, behind your eyes. So you need to understand this and you need to act on this. It's like, hey, what's next is what's next for you. And what's next for you is going to be next for the person sitting next to you. Okay? So in other words, relax your control and expectation of what you think should be happening and allow what is happening to teach you. Stay in that present moment while you're within it. And don't be wondering about, well, okay, I've done this, now what's next? Get into a meditation. Meditate on what you're doing right now. It's like, what's it? Okay, all right, I'm inside the Spartan trailer. I'm sitting on this, I'm leaning on this metaphysical table. I've got the iPhone is propped up against the Goody Girl mint cookies. OMG. and the other phone is propped up against Lasha's food. Organic. I'll have you know, Lasha eats organic. That's my kitty cat, Lasha. And my watch is upside down, and I've got this light coming down, and okay, what's going on here? It's like, oh yeah, okay. Start expanding yourself into understanding what is happening and why it's happening. Okay, so this is for Christine. So what next? I mean, there's a huge volume of experiences that can be happening next for you. And then we're moving on to question number 5. And I'm sorry, Christine, that what's next is like kind of asking the ocean as you're standing in the ocean and you're asking the ocean, okay, what's next? It can caress you or it can kill you. I mean, it's a big thing. And Fawad is saying here, ain't seminal fluid an excess of cerebrospinal fluid, ain't it? Well, so should the Kunalini be affected by release, as it already agrees not to deal with the excess? Well, no. Seminal fluid ain't an aspect of the cerebrospinal fluid. It ain't. And it ain't because ain't fell in the paint. Now there ain't no ain't. So, that's interesting to hear you speak like that, Fawad, because I know you're from Pakistan. So he says, ain't seminal fluid an excess of cerebrospinal fluid? No. So should the Kundalini be affected by the release? Well, it's not, because it isn't, and so therefore the Kundalini isn't affected. As it already agrees not to deal with the excess, well, once again, you're premising an incorrect premise, and so that none of these questions that you're asking after the incorrect premises is going to work for you. Sorry about that. It would be nice to have a grandfather like this man. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a mean man. Just to let you know. Really bad. I mean, I got this terrible reputation. All right, so number 5. Mike Phillips asks about Kundalini and Deja vu. Yeah. Let's see what she wants to say about that. Sometimes it's a past life experience reference. Sometimes it's a level of similarity to an experience that a person has had before in another life, in another body, and it triggers the memory, the soul memory of an individual. Your soul memories are very much connected to you, especially within a Kundalini context, but they are separated, so to speak, from your day-to-day, did I bring the checkbook type of memory issue. And so sometimes, in the fluttering of your day, you'll come into a situation where, oh man, I totally have been here before. I have done this before. I was sitting in my car and I was thinking about my checkbook, and did I remember my checkbook, and the sun was shining, and there was a red car over there and there was a blue car over there, and I'd been here before. Boy, it's a big subject. I'm getting flooded with information. Sometimes it's a memory of a precognitive event. Okay? Precognition, knowing the future, right? So as you go into the dream state, Sherry's Forex, I'll mention that in a second here. Okay, I'll answer your question. As we go into the dream state, Kundalini can push us into an understanding of what the future may hold for us. It's not a guarantee. It's not something that you, as an egotistical mind, get to control. You can't say to the Kundalini, give me the lottery numbers. I guess you could, and if it works, send me a donation. So. Part of the deja vu process is having the memory of a future event that you have been allowed to partake of or to know about in the waking state. Okay, and another part of it, as I mentioned before, is a past life memory as well. But with regards to Mike, it's more of a precognitive memory of what is to be. And as you go through the motions of your life, making those micro decisions every second of the day, you often will have a memory of a future event pushed at you, and it'll interrupt you. You say, "Geez, where did that come from? I could have swore I had Goody Girl mint cookies before, but this is the first time I've had them." And sadly, I can't recommend them. They're not very minty. But anyway, so within deja vu, it is the memory, often it is the memory of a precognitive event or the memory of a past life event that a person has experienced. And there are other aspects to this too that I'm not being given to share. But those two are very important aspects, and so this is the depth and width of the question that I'm allowed to answer regarding deja vu. There's lots of stuff going on with deja vu. And then we go to number 6, and this is Marie Bloom, saying, feeling like I hit a brick wall. Ow. I hit a brick wall. For the last year, I've gained so much insight into myself and my own toxic traits. I've made a lot of positive changes. I feel like I've hit a brick wall now, though. not getting as much insight anymore. Still feel like I'm awakened, but also feel like it's not over. Does this happen to people during an awakening process? Yeah, it's a plateau experience. This is a plateau experience. And the plateau experience is given to you. You lose a lot of the phenomena. You lose a lot of the psychic manifestation. You lose a lot of the inner insights that you would have had about specific situations as you go through your life. You lose these so that you can process them more. Just because you experienced it doesn't mean the processing is done. So a plateau experience is given. And as you go through the plateau, you're walking across the desert of phenomena. There's no phenomena. There's no insight. It's like this desert of emptiness. Think about what you've already received. Learn how to apply what you've already received. Use it as a form of reception and a form of inner perception that you have yet to accomplish by just scratching the surface of a phenomena or an insight or anything that the Kundalini brings you. So there you go. Marie, that is for you. I got to go back to Miss 4X here. I think that's her name. Okay, and I'm gonna answer these. Earache and toothache is extreme once energy go to head. How do we release? Keep the tongue up behind the upper front teeth. Go to the White Room Dialogues on YouTube. White Room Dialogues, Chrism, Kundalini on YouTube. And you'll learn how to shake some of that energy free. Toothache, earache, you may have an inner ear boil. And, those are painful. Those are painful. And if you just let it go, it's going to get more and more painful. Then it bursts, and then, the pain is definitely resolved. You can go to an ENT specialist if you want. He can check your ears to see, or she can check your ears and see if there is an inner ear boil. I'm not sure they'll do anything about it. I've had these before myself, and the doctors will, they'll look at you, they'll go, oh yeah, I can't see through your ear canal there, can't see the eardrum. It's like you must have an inner ear boil. Thanks. So I've had to induce a fluidic release from those inner ear boils myself, and once you do that, you want to flush it out with a gentle solution of hydrogen peroxide and water, and keep the areas clean as you can. For the toothache, try to see your dentist. Try to give yourself a finger gum massage every day, just as you would brush your teeth. Give your gum tissue a massage, and you might see if you have tooth issues, you might see some blisters forming, and some sort of an infectious type of response there as well. So if you have access to a dentist and the money to pay for it, like here in the States, then go get that taken care of. Okay, so thank you, Shares Forex, for that. And then looking at here, the Kundalini will ameliorate a toothache. It will govern the amount of pain, knowing your access to dental facilities or not. It will govern your pain for anything, whether it's tooth, whether it's sprained ankle or arthritis, whatever it is. Kundalini has total, complete control on whether or not you feel pain for any given reason or scenario. Doesn't mean that it's a guarantee for you to take it away. Doesn't mean that, because pain can be a great teacher, but it does have that control. And Christina asked me, are there Most common signs of third eye and top chakra opening, or it's individual. Mostly it's individual, Christina. Third eye, top chakra. If you awaken through the drug experience, marijuana, heroin, a combination of different powerful drugs, you can have a top-down activation. And the top-down activation is typically much more difficult than the bottom-to-top activation. And so it will be individual, but it will also be somewhat chaotic. You may begin to see things that nobody else sees, and which will classify you within medical science as schizophrenic. You may see things and creatures and beings that other people do not see. You may hear voices. You may hear sounds that these creatures make that other people do not hear. And so once again, if you talk about it to anybody, well, they just may have a little straitjacket party for you. If you're here in the States, or I think they do this in England as well, the health service, somebody can say, oh yeah, that Chrism guy, he's just way too happy. Goes around thinking like he knows things. Yeah. We don't like those kind of people. Those kind of people don't set well with us around here. Let's call up the mental hospital. He may need some treatment. So that's what happens. And off Chrism goes to the mental hospital because he was too happy. Yeah. So, you got to be careful with awakening the third eye, because you'll see things that you shouldn't see without having the lower chakras activated. And here's the deal. Sight, whether it's sight, psychic sight through the third eye or sight through the physical eyes, is a form of communication. So if you look at something with your third eye, it feels your consciousness. Okay, your consciousness has weight. Okay, and that other consciousness will feel the imposition of your consciousness upon it, and it will respond many times. And that can be good or bad. I mean, it depends on, a lot of the lower astral is interconnected with the upper physical. And so unless you've worked on the lower chakras, you're going to be seeing things that drug users or severe alcoholics will see, demonic forms or things of that nature, unless it is your karma to really to experience the angelic or the beautiful forms, which are also available. So depends a lot on where your karma is and what's going on with you in a karmic way. Christina. Sarah Pearson asks, is it normal for Kundalini to awaken and then fall back to sleep, only to awaken again years later? Yes. That's if you let it. You see, now, if you're practicing the safeties when it awakens and you learn all these things and you nourish it, then it'll stay awake. Okay, and it'll increase the level of teaching that it wants to give to you. But if you're not nourishing it, if you're just kind of sitting back and letting it happen to you, well then, yeah, it can fade away, and then it can come back, and then it can fade away. And what you need to do is to really take an interest, a strong interest, in nourishing it. And I will suggest the www.kundalinisafeties.com. If you do that, you'll have less of a fade away with it. And moving on, Peter asks about, and I'll be getting to these other questions too, don't think I've forgotten you. Peter asks, what about personal love to another person, or should you try and surrender to God exclusively? Can you do both? Yes, you can. You can do both. You can see God or Goddess within another person. You can see God or Goddess in your German Shepherd, or crow, or cat, or husky. You can see it in another person riding on the bus. You don't even know. You can see God everywhere, all the time. Okay. God is never not here. God is here in my Timex watch. Okay? God is even with the Goody Girl mint cookies, but I think Goody Girl needs to be a little more minty. God is in the mint. You can see God in the mint plant. I mean, God is everywhere. So, should you try and surrender to God exclusively? Well, I would do that, and through that surrender, you'll see other people as the form of divinity that they truthfully are. Everyone is. So I think you're already on the path. Just, from the quality of the question and the way you phrased it, Peter, you know what is the right thing to do. And Amar, there's another Amar question here. What is better? Amar asks, what is better? Dedicating all time to meditation and progressing faster on the spiritual path, or fulfilling duties in the material world while trying to build meditation as much as possible in regular life? I'd say a little bit of both. All right, moving on. And then this is by Christopher, number 7 here. I'm interested in knowing about spontaneous activations in partners as well as the basic family unit, including pets. Yay! What level of effect do we, with activated Kundalini, have on those around us? Pretty strong. Pretty strong. Let's just talk with the pets. The pets, they already know that your grace is expressing itself. They can see it. Okay, they know. They also know that it's natural. They also know that they're here to teach you. They also know that your grace and what they know to teach are very much in alignment. It is a teaching of love, primarily. And, this follows the kriya, this follows the out-of-body experiences, this follows the pain modulation, this follows the inner areas of receiving knowledge. This follows everything that the Kundalini brings to you. It is all a teaching of love. And the pets are there to augment that teaching of love and to spread it outside of the human family. Okay, so it's not just about you, your spouse, or your kid, or your mom, or your dad, or your aunt, or your uncle, or grandparents. It's about other creatures. It's about the praying mantis on the leaf. It's about the German shepherd chasing the ball. It's about Lasha using you as a scratching post. and there's some tolerance there too. It's a very important thing. The teachings of love that are given, and then this is increased with the pets. So the pets become more knowledgeable. They become more conscious than, say, another pet or another animal would be, that it does not share this Kundalini connection with you. Okay. And I have this with the crow. We have a definite communication. He's a good crow. He's a really good crow. And, a harsh situation for him physically, but he's able to get around and do what he needs to do. And he's giving me a great teaching on what it is to be a crow and that divine expression of God as a crow. They increase in their connection with you, and therefore they increase their connection with the grace that is transforming you. Okay, and you must always treat them as people. You must always treat them well. Always. The same way you would treat, or actually better than you would treat another human. Okay, so there's that. And then what level of effect do we have with Kundalini on those around us? Well, in the same way. Your kids, your spouse, your friends, They will all be deeply affected by your Kundalini, and your Kundalini will not leave them. You give your friend a hug, good night, see you later, see you next time. Well, that energy that you just pressed all over them stays on them and begins to help them in their process, in their life, and in their evolution. So yeah, it has a definite effect. And then when you're having sexual intercourse, yes, it can cause an activation in the partner. It can. It's definitely a thing that to consider. Are children of those with awakened Kundalini born with a head start? Kind of. Yes, they are. And will theirs rise in time as ours did? Yes, it's a possibility. But they are given a head start by virtue of having your Kundalini all over them all the time, all over every knife, fork, spoon, glass, door handle, bathtub, basin, food, refrigerator handle. I mean, it's everywhere in the house. And therefore, they're collecting it their whole life. So definitely something for them. And number 8, by Anna Maria. Does Kundalini protect you in an OBE? Yes, it can. Does that mean that you'll have always, little lucky charms and unicorns floating on the horizon eating cotton candy? No. You may get to have some harsh experiences. But they're all there to teach you. They're all there not to frighten you, but to teach you in a very specific way. Preeti asked me, how do you know you are progressing spiritually once kriyas stop? By not attaching everything to the kriya manifestation. You don't want to attach to these as an outcome. As the final say, oh, well, I'm having kriyas, therefore I'm enlightened. No. You may be on the path, but you're not there yet. Okay, so reduce your expectations of what it means for you to have kriyas, and then once the kriyas go away, focus on what the kriyas were teaching you. It is not finished. So there's that. And moving over here, my feet hurt a lot. How long will this last for? Okay. You can get a foot massage with olive oil. Just a second. With olive oil and a touch of castor oil. Make sure you go in between the toes. Make sure you go on top of the foot over to the Achilles tendon. Really, and get someone else to do it. Okay, that will help. And hello, Roberto and Priya Kapoor. A lot of mid-back ache, master expansion pain. Priya, expansion pain. Let it happen. I mentioned last night as I was writing to do some very, very gentle spinal twisting, and this would help you with this. It looks like yours are between the 3rd and the 4th, so that will help you. So, for instance, you can keep your shoulder blades on the floor and then gently put your knees to one side for a certain amount of time, and then bring your knees over to the other side for the same amount of time, and let that occur for you. That should help. Amar, in addition to the safeties, what else needs to be done to stay blessed by the Kundalini? Selfless service, even though that is part of the safeties. Volunteering to help other people allows you to continue to be blessed by the Kundalini. So, don't be afraid to meet strangers and give them a hand if it's obvious that they need it. Marisi, she says, what can you do when you feel Kundalini energy stuck on your back at the heart area? You can begin to expand your levels of love and appreciation and gratitude and forgiveness for everyone in your proximity and in your past. Okay? What you're doing is you're, by your actions of love and grace, you are opening the heart chakra to accept more of the love that it needs to expand. And by expressing that in active state, you're really, really pushing it forward within yourself. And Marie says, yes, in UK, although I think they are becoming more aware. I'm not quite sure what that's regarding. And Isate, thank you. Isate, thank you. I know there's a language barrier here, but I really appreciate your constant support and the beautiful love that you show for everyone. Kelly Marie, Kundalini in past lives, I started seeing connections between my soul and ancient Egypt. Is this an ego construct or a divine phenomenon? I also smelled my late grandmother. That was a divine thing. That was a divine phenomenon. Thought straitjacket party was going to be thrown. Yeah, I bet, if you talk about it. No, a lot of people have a connection with Egypt. A lot of people have connection with Atlantis. A lot of Lemuria. All these things are real. See, this is why I'm saying, you cannot believe as fact what science tells you is real, because it is limited. Science does not know, and because of human egotism and corrupt power practices and competition, those scientists that do know this is true will not be allowed to educate the public regarding it. Okay, because too much of the status quo is dependent upon an ignorant population. Okay, and this is how we keep the population imprisoned by their ignorance. And so, yeah, you don't want to talk about it. But yeah, you've got the past lives and with Egypt and all of these different places, ancient Ireland, ancient Britain, some very, very amazing things in Romania, in the mountains just west of Bucharest. Some pretty astounding things going on there. So yeah, definitely. And then Marie asks, my daughter sleeps with me. Is that okay? Yes, it is. Indeed, it is okay. And Scott Hildebrand. Oh, I see. Okay. Never mind. Hitting on pets. My dog Fred and I had some interesting experiences. All right, so moving on. Number 10, Tracy Gardner. How do I work through blocks of colors? Bright orange, pink, purple. These colors are always there when I close my eyes, but I can still see even though my eyes are shut. It's like this since I have my Kundalini activated. Just ask the colors what they represent to yourself. And if they represent a certain way of being, then try to be that way. I don't think they're blocks. They're teachers. So let the colors teach you. So let's see. Peter writes, I experienced a strong awakening last December. After I had a lot of emotional kriyas, feeling bliss and lows every other day, that have been more balanced now. Now I'm experiencing a lot of sexual energy. Feels positive. A bit like Superman. I try letting it go up my spine. Okay, you're pushing the agenda now, Peter. Genital fluidic ascendance will occur by itself. You don't need to do the Taoist practice of forcing the semen back through the prostate and into the spinal cord. You can do it. It takes practice, but you can do it. But it's not a fluidic thing so much as it is an energetic thing. You get to the point where you can pretty much put energy in your spine for any reason you want. Okay. But I don't think that you need to push the sexual energy up your spine. You do that, and you can really start assaulting the gates of heaven, and that can have a pretty unfortunate blowback. So tread cautiously, Peter. And he says, sometimes I wonder if I should do something to make it subside or push through it. Need I worry or think about it? No. Let it do what it needs to do. Support it, nourish it by right action, noble thought, noble action, and it will continue its way, through you. Amy, up and down my legs all night. Okay. Okay, and then looking at this, and can karma get worked through when going to sleep? Absolutely. That's one of the areas where it does get worked through. And there we have it. So, I want to say thank you, everyone, for watching. It's been a long one, and there's two parts to this video, the one that I did in the kitchen and now the one that I'm doing in the Spartan. So if you have any more questions, and then Amar's asking about yoga nidra, specific music, mantra. Yeah. Well, what I do is I hear the na'ad, I hear the nada all the time. And so when I just, like I'm hearing it right now, extremely high frequencies, and I like to harmonize with them. So if I hear ooh, then I add this ooh, and so I can harmonize it. And I like to do that. And then I can get into like a 3-part harmony, 4-part harmony. I mean, it depends. I don't know what a billiard room has to do with any of this, but okay. Marie, thank you. And thank you, Peter. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I will get out of your head now and have a beautiful day or night wherever it is that you are. Oh, and just to let you know, I'm going to be taking the Shaktipat sign-ups that have already occurred, and I'll start sending the information out, and it's time to start preparing for the Shaktipat summer solstice Shaktipat. So for those of you interested, please private mail me, and for those of you that have already done so, know that I have that, and I will be sending you the information soon. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Julia, for organizing it. Goodbye, everybody.